the Jubilee. Tell them fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. They go down the road and song the Jubilee. Tell them fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Tell them oppressors fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Tell them leaders fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Tell them kidnappers fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. I can't hear you say fire go burn them. You have a problem with fire, me man. I said tell them kidnappers fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Go down the road and song the Jubilee. Tell them fire go burn them. Tell them fire. Go down the road and song the Jubilee. I say go down the road and song the Jubilee. Who is in charge of the house light? Put the house light on for me, please. Hey, go down the road and song the Jubilee with children dying, man. Tell them who stand against Africa. We build the world and we build our nation. Hey, go down the road and song the Jubilee. Tell them I say, fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Fire go burn the criminals. Fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Go down the road and song the Jubilee. Tell them fire go burn them. I said fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. All of them who still in self-denial. Fire go burn them. All of them who won't take care of their children. Tell them fire go burn them. This black woman said fire go burn them. Tell them fire go burn them. I said tell them all fire go burn them.
Productively what we're doing in the local government reform with the public procurement law put side by side as now amended. We're given a chance to stimulate the ground where it is at work by defining those responsibilities, giving people the power to hire, the power to discipline, the power to spend, and the power to get it done right there in a shorter space of time.
Right. Will there be, in terms of checks and balances, for each and every corporation under this local government reform? Previously, you had the auditors at the Ministry of Local Government, you had the permanent secretary and the technocrats at the Ministry of Local Government who did their due diligence, who ensured that if you wanted to wire money from one vote to the next, that it was put to the purpose, and there would not any random breaking of the law in terms of spending randomly. What is the level of oversight there?
So you have several levels. That level of environment approval and all of those things, that still exists. That was never the problem in terms of delay. the ability to via $3 million from goods and services to $3 million to pay for contract employment, that's never a difficult process. The auditing of the $3 million that you spend is still supervised by Section 116 of the Constitution, which is the Auditor General's Department.
Mhm.
It's still supervised by the Municipal Corporations Act itself, which sets up the procurement and auditing functions at the ministry level. We've now added the Ministry of Finance into that. The delays that we had in the corporation is where your auditor didn't come to work, where you had unaudited accounts for years, where your unspent balances were not audited. Now you have the ability to hire the persons to do those audit functions and not wait on central government to send somebody who might be one person acting for 14 corporations.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to speed that up. That means that Shagwana sitting on $7 million of unspent balances. And balling, we had to fix a chiller, we have to fix a chiller. Well, you have $7 million to fix a chiller for one. Use your 7, for example. The delay factors in spending that 7, now corporations have to do it. The other thing is that we are now creating an audit committee which is chaired by the minority people.
Mm.
So let's say the UNC get 1 seat in a P&M corporation. They will be the head of the audit committee for the corporation.
I mean, we see these things put in place, and when there's an emergency, example, and you have different reports, the app can't handle the load.
Which is why we have been beta testing it, meaning we built the app months work, and my philosophy has always been just start.
Mm.
Once you start, you'll begin to add and add and add.
So we're going to open the lines just now. Shortly. Where I don't understand. We're not
So
going to clash our
imagine
heads.
imagine we had the COVID regulations. Remember when we were doing the COVID regulations, the UNC insisted, no, those regulations are unlawful because they don't have parliamentary authority. You have to bring those regulations. Every time you want to change it, they said, bring it to Parliament. They sued in a case called Dominic Suraj.
They lost.
We went all the way to the Privy Council and they lost, as they've lost almost all their cases, right? And the fact is that that case proved that sometimes ministers require to be nimble and to make amendments. And if this country stops spending, we collapse.
Of course.
A government, which is now more than a government because it's a public, who cannot procure other than through the public procurement law. And that's what the Minister of Finance went to fix. And the UNC converted that into an argument that they're watering it down. No, the Minister of Finance was fighting for small businesses. Randall Mitchell made a really important point at about 1 o'clock in the morning in the Senate. He said that the JCC and other entities are large entities that are well stocked and well managed. They have accountants, they have auditors, they have this. They do not see or speak for the person who catching their tail when they get money to pay the NIS for their workers.
Correct.
And have to juggle for the small businessman who does not have cash flow because it didn't come in yet, and he has to make his NIS payments and he's late, and he therefore falls into arrears and can't get his NIS certificate so he could tender for a job. The JCC don't represent them.
No.
Those people are outside in the cold, sucking salt and dirt.
Correct.
And therefore, a government has to care about small businesses. And therefore, we are saying to the population, if you give us the opportunity to put on the reform, let us therefore improve job access. Let us improve delivery of services in a shorter space of time. Let us make ourselves accountable. We've said we've run a 99 meters and a 100-meter race. Let us finish the race.
My concern now, as I asked your Prime Minister, is about implementation.
Yes.
Implementation in this country and in government is a big headache. We talk, let us do it, let us take. And when it's time to roll out and implement, there is no proper plan to implement.
That's why I'm here doing this part.
Which is?
The local government reform implementation was assigned to me. I drafted the law. I've operationalized hundreds of laws. I've sat perhaps as the longest serving Attorney General and drafted the most number of laws that are operationalized. I've been put to operationalize the law that I drafted with the processes and the people being dealt with at the same time. So I have had, since March 16th to now, I've had 16 months to turn on the laws. It's very rare that a ministry could get cracking within 16 months. But we have done a massive amount of work. After August 14, we have a big exercise to do. Remember, the UNC went to the Privy Council and they won. Forget that it was a split decision, I forget whatever. Privy Council said, listen, that law, when it's turned on, only applies to future councils, not incumbent councils. So we're going to have to do some amendments to the local government package to make sure that we can put on the reforms. Be wary. The UNC has said they do not support the local government reform. And therefore, they do not support us being able to give jobs to people in areas that they live, to make sure that people have the ability to look after themselves. The local government reform election is so critical because it now says, what do you want after the 14th? Do you want this law to come to life? The UNC cannot have it both ways where they say no to reform. Don't use the $1 a day, $2 a day in property tax to meet how you're paying for a bill. They say don't do that. Somehow the money has to appear magically elsewhere. Right? But we are saying if you want to have this product produced, operationalized, which is what you're talking about, that's why the 14th is important to us.
Why? The legislation is there.
So who's going to vote for the tweaks that we need to get? Who's going to implement it? Imagine if you have a quote-unquote yellow corporation that refuses to implement the local government reform properly. Because a chairman of a yellow corporation can decide he's doing it slowly, or you're not making it happen. What you will be able to see is that you'll be able to see a very fast rollout. But you have to have people who are willing to play.
But after the 14th, it don't mean that the UNC will support the tweaks in the parliament.
It does not. Fortunately, they are simple majority in nature.
Okay.
But by the time you could pass a law, you have to implement it.
Yes.
Now, I am confident that what is going on at the head office level is working, and we didn't rely on head office alone working. 140 change agents were plugged into the system, 10 per corporation, so that we could go inside the corporation and work with them to make sure we talk in the same language and move in the same way. So we have put those steps into place. But when you are faced with this, if you take away all the mark busing and peacock coming from the UNC platform and insults, at the end of the day, I'm convinced that the average Trinidadian, because we're talking Trinidad now in the local government, the average Trinidadian wants to be able to support themselves, have a job, look after their family, and to hold their head up high in a secure environment.
I'll tell you something, Minister. I'll tell you something. If the UNC chooses, if the UNC controlled corporations take the time and fail to want to roll out the amendment, they'll be left behind. Because the other corporations will roll out and the people in those regions will have a better quality of life.
I watched the list of aldermen in San Fernando Corporation proposed by the UNC. And I am seeing people there that I know do not know the city of San Fernando in all of its four corners, right?
Wow.
Have never stepped foot into depressed or poverty-stricken areas, don't know what certain parts look like. Could you imagine a day when they at the local government level are opposing central government development of San Fernando just to crash it?
No,
because in the UNC world, crash the system and they win.
Yeah. Well, that is their position. The economy implode, crime take over, blood in the road, and they have.
I don't even want to go so much. I'll stop at that level there, because now I'm about why is this relevant to somebody's mind? Why listen to anything that I have to say today? I'm down to jobs. I'm down to proper use and accountability of money. I'm down to making sure that we can stimulate the environment where we live in every corporation where we are.
I think it's so important just for the basic quality of life. We deserve a better quality of life. It will go a long way for senior citizens to enjoy a better quality of life in their homes, whether it be better quality drains, steps where they have to walk up, the recreation facilities, the health center, community center, the schools in the community that will now be passed on to local government to maintain. So to me, there's a whole lot.
The private developments that are unmaintained because they're not vested in the corporation.
Correct.
The gated communities where garbage is picking up is a problem. The HDC communities which have not been brought onto the books yet. We're talking about capturing areas that are orphaned.
Correct.
And cannot see services.
Correct.
That's what we're talking about. A man or a woman that complains that water is coming down into their property. All of that.
Yes. Well, let's open the lines. We don't have much time, but we will take a few calls. Good afternoon and welcome.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good
Sorry about
afternoon.
that. I'm calling in to say I'm thanking you guys for this program today, but I'd like him to know that the faculties and the agencies that they created, which he spoke about, like legal affairs and these places, some kind of checks and balances need to be done. Yes, legal affairs has now gone online. But as a member and a citizen of this country, when you're trying to get things carried out and done, we need to have proper assessment of the people working in these facilities and if they're actually getting stuff done. Because it's good to advertise you're a changing system, but does it actually work?
Can I jump into that?
Thanks,
Caller,
Equal.
thanks. Just to let you know, at the Ministry of Legal Affairs, there are 2 more steps to be taken to complete the digitization. You see the filing of documents without a signature, a wet signature, we call it, with a pen assigned wet. The digital filing using electronic signatures are going to complete the problems that we have, because that's the problem. So the interaction with the human being with the bad attitude, which is part of what the caller is referring to, that gets eliminated when you can do all of your transactions online. The law to have that under the cross system, the companies, the new system we've designed for companies filings, etc. Those things are a matter of weeks away from where we stand. Caller, remember, we were in an environment where they said it was all paper and it could never change. It did. We're in an environment where the registry was being flooded out at South Key every Friday, and we moved. They said you'd never be able to digitize millions of records, and we did. They said that you would never be able to go online and pay online, and we did. But we have a few more steps to be taken. What we're trying to do, whether it is at the company's registry or at local government, the minute you can deal with data that is logged in with very little human interface that could change the pace at which your information comes in, the better for you, because now the facts talk. Caller X will be able to say, I made a report, here's the receipt on the X day of September 2023. It's now November and I've seen nothing. Nothing could change that data. The data is there. You have a legitimate timeline and you know whose desk it's on. And that becomes part of what the caller is talking about. But what I'm trying to say, if we just wait for the perfect system without starting,
Correct.
It's like how the Prime Minister said, start
It's
the
a
public
work in
procurement
progress.
law.
It's
Put
a
it
work in
on.
progress. Let's take another call. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
To the goodly minister there and to you, Mr. Darren Marcel.
Oh,
Good day.
And yeah, I agree with all what you said in terms of the accomplishments so far. My question is in tandem with the first person that called. However, inverse.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you get the public servants to understand that they are what you are speaking about? Because there seems to be a sense of separation in terms of government as suspended in media, as opposed to let me step up to achieve and perform what the government's objective. How
Bingo.
I observe you have difficulty in getting this message across, but could you tell me how would you get that message across?
Thanks for that very important point. Caller, in the local government context, we are now giving the corporations the power to hire, discipline, and fire people. Now, to do discipline and to improve performance, you need data. So if you know you're sending Faris Al-Rawi 10 things, and his job is to manage the things that come in, and the data shows all 10 are unattended to, and there's no reason for it, you now have the discipline in the 12th schedule to the Municipal Corporations Act to go through that process so you could move the process forward and demand that you have performance.
I'm happy you're saying that, because here what I want to ask, and I don't want you to answer, right? If in local government, with this reform and the digitization, if when you send your plan to approve in a corporation like Tonapuna, and the people who have to approve it tell you you have to pay them $30,000 before they approve it, or else you ain't get it done. And some people currently have to go to court because let me draw a plan for you and payment I'll get it approved. It has some of that going on, Minister.
Yeah.
and the allegations and many complaints coming from Tonapuna Corporation. Right? I just thought, don't answer.
Well, I wouldn't answer that,
Don't
but what I
answer.
will
Let's
tell
see.
is that with the Planning and Facilitation
Allegations.
Development Act, which is part of the local government, for local government now manages everything under 4 lots of land, simple developments, etc., under the PAFDL legislation. Once that is digitized, you can't get, listen, we had the same thing where in the company's registry, they would tell you, look, to get it, you pay a little $200, you go up to the top of the line. You can't pay $200 online.
Yeah.
There are nobody to pay online via Visa. Nobody hustling you for the $200. When you're doing your license application online or your passport application online, they don't have a tout in the line online. There's no online tout.
I'm happy to hear that.
Right? So these things are powerful mechanisms to get people to be happy to do their job and people to receive the access. But I want you to remember, in 2015, none of this existed. Nothing existed. You went to the magistrate's court, there had a fella by the door bawling out your name.
Yeah.
That a man with a longhand book writing.
Yeah.
Slow down, sir. We can't hear you. My name is Faris, Faris. How you spell that? Faris. How you spell that? Far. Those things done. You're using Siri for dictation, etc. The level of transformation inside the system that is applying in local government. Because my job was to bring all that I had done in other areas, and it has been significant, and apply it to local government.
Let's take a next call. Gail A. Flora Kishwa. I know I'm talking about Gail. Take a call.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, brother.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Alvari.
Afternoon, sir.
There's an unspent balance in Chaguanas at 7 million, you said.
It was at one point. They've spent some of it.
Right. The ATC projects in Cashew Gardens and stuff.
Yeah.
Those ATC projects that have bad roads and stuff, will that fall under the new reform? Because local government saying they are not responsible, central government are responsible. When the reform has taken place and is enacted, will now the AGC community fall with the responsibility of the Chaguanas Borough in Cashew Gardens? Because one saying the central government.
I understand, sir. Yeah, it's what you call in law locus. Do you have the position to have the responsibility for it, right? So, number one, HDC having developed an area, HDC has the primary responsibility for its development until it is handed over to the corporation. So, on the HDC side, just to let you know, we have split the HDC into 3 different divisions. And one of those divisions is the management of things like that. So HDC is no longer going to be just one big pot where HDC is managing apartments where you pay $100 in rent, together with apartments that you're selling for $4 million, together with new development, together with 1970s built properties that fallen into disrepair. What you do is you separate all that out, separate the mortgage business out, separate the new construction out. So the first part of responsibility for that road, HDC, we have a plan to treat with that by dividing the responsibilities in HDC. Those companies have already been created, they've been populated, etc. Secondly, in the Municipal Corporations Amendment, we are taking on what we call orphan roads, roads that are nobody holding to own. It used to be Petrotrin Road, it was a HDC road, it was a Ministry of Agriculture road somewhere. We bring that onto the deck. Then local government gets to perform the works on those roads. And where does it get the money from? It gets the money from central government and residential property taxes. So we have 3 different mechanisms to treat with that.
My concern, implementation. Roll out. Let's take a final call in this hour. Final. Please be brief.
Yeah, sure. Good evening.
Good
I just wanted to ask the minister to look into the cemetery issue, because in the Maraval community, there has only ever been one cemetery that I would have known, which would have been at the Catholic Church premises. Yeah. And now that cemetery has become a private cemetery. And so that people who have been living in Maraval for decades cannot be buried there if they are not of the religious orientation of the Catholics. So I want to know what would be the recourse in a case like that.
So cemeteries is an important issue run by local government. So the Burial Grounds Act was amended in the local government reform package. The crematorium management comes power. You need materials and you need mobilization, all of which comes under the local government reform, because we're telling you where the money comes from. We're telling you that you could hire the manpower. We're telling you that you could mobilize it with local contractors using the procurement laws. You understand? All of these things add up together in that. So yes, ma'am, we can treat with the issue of Maraval, for instance, in cemeteries, because that's an issue that every corporation will have to look at.
They currently do. And COVID didn't make it any easier.
Correct.
Minister, you skillfully came under the headband of procurement, but we spoke a lot about reform, and we spoke about how procurement plays the role for reform and how reform will benefit from the procurement legislation.
They are inextricably bound.
I thank you for that. I want to just say I'm repeating. I think as a former local government representative and somebody who supports local development, because I understand the value of it, long overdue. If implemented and rolled out, and I don't expect it after August the 14th to be perfect by Christmas. I don't expect that. I don't even expect it in the first term between 2014, 2023 to 2027. I really don't, because I expect a lot of, teaching issues and for people to buy in properly and roll out and implementing. I do. But I am satisfied that once we are going down that road, it will be to the benefit of every citizen on every street, in every community, all over Trinidad. And I would say this, I am very jealous when I touch down in Tobago.
Yeah.
If you touch down in Tobago 5 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, if you're in Tobago on the road at 4:30, 5 o'clock, people cleaning the street. Cleaning, I'm talking about fine cleaning, Tobago is clean and serene 24/7, 24/7.
Because the THA model is the local government reform package.
That is the point. And
Yes.
so we only fly to Tobago. Oh, Tobago is so clean. Because there are things that are done in a particular way based on the autonomy of the Tobago House of Assembly.
Correct.
You understand? So I'm using that as an example because I understand the value of that. I want to thank you so very much for spending quality time with us.
Thank you for the opportunity
for
to be here.
effort you made to explain the little details, because there are people out there who still, didn't grasp both procurement, how it will work as well, and how it will work with the autonomy given in the reform for local government. I mean, I'm sure we could talk more at some other time and, and expand the conversation. But I thought that I myself today benefited from this
If
conversation.
I could make one parting request to all of Trinidad, forget Bacchanal, forget intrigue, forget Pekong for a moment. Just try to visualize a better life and look at the details of what is on offer. And all that I could tell you is that the government, through its reform package and the People's National Movement, we're promoting what I believe is the adequate solution for us to have a better life.
I want to tell you this. I didn't want to make this comment. I was trying to avoid this because I wanted to stay with the nitty-gritty of these issues. But I've been paying attention to this campaign. Every night, and I know business or what they feel about this. I listen on a PNM platform. I listen to you make the media rounds. I watch publications. The government is talking about reform and the benefit of reform to the citizens in local government. Long overdue, sir. Long overdue. The UNC is not addressing the issue of reform as it relates to the benefit of citizens in local government. And let me tell you, I am disappointed at that. Even if they don't support reform, they are not offering an alternative.
Correct.
They are not offering alternative. So what really that says to me, and I'm scared, that if the UNC wins the local government election, let's say they didn't only stay with 7, but they win 2 more, 1 more of the PNM corporation, or even if they get no win, but they get more seats in the local government, we are going to stay right where we are. Stay right where we are, not happy with the services, struggling with in our communities to get things done effectively. And you had to wait on the minister who works the paper road. You had to wait on the permanent secretary and local government to do drafts
Correct.
for garbage collection, the little things. And it will not create the level of employment. The same people who go into schools in the community, primary, secondary, and whatever, and go to university and qualify and come back, could turn around and work right there with the meaningful jobs, quality work, and benefit the community.
Absolutely.
That will not happen. And that is scaring me.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I can only pray that people are paying attention to reality. Today we focused on people and not parties.
Yeah.
All that I could say is I pray for our country and I have faith that we're a good people.
I do. Thanks again.
Thank
It's
you,
a
sir.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
I'm of the view that before this campaign is finished, before the election is finished, we need to talk again.
Would love to. God
Pleasure.
bless you all.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, Trinidad and Tobago.
Cameron,
Thank you,
we're going to
everyone.
the
Yes,
Center
sir.
5 and 6.
With Mr. Kevin Garcia.
Broadcasting from Port of Spain, Trinidad, this is the most influential name in radio, I-95.5. Live local coverage you can depend on. This is News Center 5 at 6.
A prison officer arrested after attempting to take marijuana into Golden Grove. The acting prison commissioner says rogue officers will be weeded out. Savannah vendors defy orders to move from their location for 1 week to facilitate emancipation celebrations. Teachers picket the offices of the Education Ministry, and in the U.S., the IMF predicts continued high inflation for 2024. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Now with the news in detail, I am Kevin Garcia. The head of the prison service is vowing to get all rogue officers out of the system. Commissioner of Prisons, Player Prasad Ramutar, says they will not be allowed to run free under his watch. Commissioner Ramutar's position follows the arrest of yet another officer. He says the officer attempted to take marijuana and other contraband into the Golden Grove prison in Aruca yesterday. Commissioner Ramutar says due to the good work of his officers, the errant officer was caught in the act and detained.
I can confirm that we have an ongoing searching exercise. We search inmates, we search officers, and yes, an officer was held yesterday with contraband items, mainly cigarette and what appears to be marijuana. The police are calling. I want to compliment my officers, my hard-working officers, for their diligence in searching and observing. We have quite a few. Well, I say quite a few. We have some officers who are in the system that are rogue, crooked officers. If it's one by one, we're going to continue to weed them out.
The acting commissioner of prisons wants harsher terms for rogue officers in the system. He believes they are granted bail too easily.
What disappoints me as a commissioner is that when they are taken before the courts, their bail is set so minimal that they are able to acquire that bail and be out of the system and laugh at us. There is no deterrent to committing those offenses. And I've spoken out against, of course, everyone has the right to bail, but when officers are held red-handed, it should speak something, and I don't think they should be able to acquire bail that easily. I say that without any fear of contradiction.
Commissioner Ramutar says it is disappointing when one of his officers commits such acts since they work together with the police service and other state agencies in intelligence gathering towards weeding out crooked officers. Queen's Park Savannah vendors are saying no to an order to move from their location for 1 week to facilitate a guest of the Emancipation Support Committee. The vendors are located at the Barber Green entrance to the Savannah. They are being asked to make way for the committee's hosting of the monarch of the Ashanti Kingdom, The Asante Hene, His Royal Majesty Otuemfu Oseyi Tutu II of Ghana. The African king will be the guest of honor for the 5 days of emancipation celebrations hosted by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Arts and the Emancipation Support Committee. However, the Association of Local Culinary Ambassadors, which represents the vendors, say its members have been ordered to move out for a week to make way for the preparations, but President Michael Williams is saying absolutely not. He accuses the committee of taking food out of the mouths of the vendors and their families.
We must stop them for 7 days because of that. This is not a hobby. We earn all living here. Everybody's small entrepreneurs and they have workers and they have families. School closed, the place is already slow and everybody is dependent on the little one thing coming up to emancipation. Like all the years, emancipation normally have their village, they only have their celebration and we are normally there doing our stuff just the same way. So when you come to ask me to tell me that I should tell 40 different business owners to stop doing business for 7 days because we have one man passing one day, I don't see that being fair at all. You're asking me to go back into slavery and I ain't doing that.
Mr. Williams says he has received a letter from the telling of the decision and he is being asked to convey the message. But he says the new location is dark and places the safety of his members at risk. He says he will not support this type of behavior, and especially not on the day slaves were emancipated. He is calling on all involved to revisit that decision.
First to begin, you're creating a whole atmosphere of confusion and bacchanal. And then with the rain, it's a gutter. There's no lighting down there. It's very dark and dangerous. I mean, I can't understand the Emancipation Support Committee and whoever making these decisions. I don't know how this is going to end, but I am not going to be carrying out that order to my members. That is the height of slavery. The Emancipation Committee had to revisit the word emancipation and then come back and talk to me. Small entrepreneurs, like we had to face the weather, we had to face the sun and the rain, just trying to make a dollar. And this is my stand. I'm not moving. I'm not giving out that order. Let the world see what really emancipation is in Trinidad and Tobago. My children must have for 7 days because I have a national comment. No, man, that is one thing I am not disrespectful, but that is one order that is very unfair that I am not giving out.
In a statement this afternoon, the Office of the Prime Minister said the African King will be in Trinidad and Tobago from July 30th to August 5th. It said Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley extended an invitation to the Asante Hene in March 2020 during his visit to Ghana. The OPM said the African King has expressed his anticipation of the establishment of an Ashanti village in Trinidad and Tobago and the formation of linkages between the Caribbean and Ghana. Fire officials are to return to the scene of two separate blazes that claimed the lives of two elderly men. The incidents occurred in Point Forte and Barataria during the early hours of this morning, one of them at a home for the elderly in Tishere village. Michael Corman perished in the fire at the Senior Citizens Community Home. He was 76 years old. The fire broke out just after midnight. Residents sprang into action after they saw flames coming from one of the apartments. Firefighters from the Point Forte area were called in and extinguished the blaze. However, the remains of Mr. Corman, also known as Galba, were found, and Winston Blake died in a fire at his 7th Avenue Malik Barataria home. He was 78 years old. The fire occurred at 1:20 this morning. There are reports which suggest that Mr. Blake had an argument with an individual before the fire. It is also reported that after the quarrel, Mr. Blake and his wife went to bed. A short while later, they noticed flames inside the house. Reports say she tried to get him out of the house, but she was overwhelmed by the fire. Neighbors also tried to help but were unsuccessful. Police and fire prevention have launched separate investigations into the incidents. The Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association is standing with its members at early childhood care centers. This morning, the teachers, led by tutor staged a noisy demonstration outside the offices of the Ministry of Education. President Martin Lumpkin said the Ministry of Education has not been treating with ECCE educators as it does their primary and secondary school teachers. He described the situation as unfair.
The teachers are on vacation in the primary and secondary sector when their students are on vacation. However, the Ministry of Education is asking these teachers to report for duties at the centers during this vacation. To do what? We are asking, what good is this? They are coming to supervise what? And further, they have not had cleaners at the centers. So, in the absence of the cleaners, who is going to clean the centers? Are they now extending that duty to our teachers? We say no, that has to be addressed immediately because this is the third week of the vacation and you have persons out in vacation.
Mr. Lumpkin said the issues facing the teachers are not new and the ministry is aware of their concerns.
We have been advocating on behalf of our teachers. They are not being treated equally as other teachers. In the case of the contract as well, they have taken a generic contract from the public service and trying to utilize it in the teaching service, which has its own peculiarities and its own issues within that as well. We are saying that they should have adjusted these contracts in order to be utilized within the teaching service. We have made representation, and actually we meet with the permanent secretary tomorrow, and these issues will be brought up again. When last we spoke with the officials at the ministry, they said that they are in consultation with the chief personnel officer.
And following this morning's demonstration, a teacher was blocked from entering the ministry. Mr. Lumpkin said the teacher was barred because he was dressed in a union t-shirt. Mr. Lumpkin expressed concerns.
We are hoping that it is coincidental. However, it is too much coincidence in one day. And we will want to find out where this policy came from within the Ministry of Education to debar persons who are legitimate employees of the association and the Ministry of Education, and wearing association colors would be debarred entry or access to carry out the business. And two, we really don't know where that came from in terms of the officers. It is so coincidental that they were passing at the time. We really don't want to speculate anything, but
Mr. Lumpkin said the association will be meeting with the education officials to ensure the members' documents can reach the relevant section in a timely manner. Police probed 2 more murders. The killings occurred in Aranguez and Aruca overnight. The victims are identified as Hashim Ballantyne and Dylan Mohammed. Mr. Ballantyne was shot on Henry Street, Aranguez, at around 9:15 last night. Police were contacted and officers later found him at the back of a house suffering from gunshot wounds. The 25-year-old was rushed to hospital where he died a short while later. At the same time, officers responded to a drive-by shooting at Hindustan Trace 5 Rivers. The victim is identified as 19-year-old Dylan Mohammed. He was shot multiple times at around 9:15 p.m. Police say Mr. Mohammed was walking near a burger cart when he was attacked by assailants in a car. Mr. Mohammed escaped. However, police say Mr. Mohammed was later found lying in a drain in the Trinity area. Homicide officers say he had multiple gunshot wounds. On to some news now outside of Trinidad and Tobago. In Jamaica, a heated exchange during this morning's meeting of the Integrity Commission Oversight Committee and MP for Southwest St. Catherine, Everald Warmington. Mr. Warmington walked out of the meeting, bringing it to an abrupt end. The disruption came after the MP raised questions about Director of Corruption Prevention Ryan Evans, whom he claimed was an advisor to former People's National Party President Dr. Peter Phillips. This is the second time that Mr. Warmington has raised the issue, having posed the question to Executive Director of the Integrity Commission, Greg Christie, about whether or not he had hired a politically connected individual at the Commission. Speaking at today's meeting, Mr. Bartlett again indicated that the committee has a duty to be just and to not make assumptions that could be damaging to individuals.
Don't tell me not to speak. Member, I refuse to have you describe any member who is not able to attend any sitting in the manner that you're...
Why didn't you allow him to answer them when he was here?
Please.
No, if I can't ask my question freely and you want to muzzle me, you can keep your meat by yourself. You want to muzzle me and your rulings are without basis.
Very well.
You want to keep the truth from Jamaica, and I'm not going to be a part of anything that you're trying to stifle the truth.
There is decorum and there is respect, and I wish that you would preserve that.
You're telling me about decorum and respect?
Thank you very much.
I asked the question very decently and no rough so tell me about decorum and respect. Trying to get the truth from, so is that disrespect?
Please.
It seems you want to encourage all form of things, and it must that's wrong, and it must have been exposed. You can keep your committee by yourself.
Mr. Warmington then exited the meeting. In response, Mr. Bartlett said he would not condone unparliamentary behavior.
I just wanted to be very clear that if members are disrespectful of the chair and this institution and they wish to take their leave of absence, let it be. But I'm not going to be the chairman who condones any sort of behavior of that type. And I think we have had enough of it.
Committee member and opposition MP for Southeast St. Andrew, Julian Robinson, added that Mr. Warmington's comments were impugning the character of the Integrity Commission director. And to some news now further afield. Food prices have surged nearly 6% this year in the US, and food banks are serving higher numbers than ever. The IMF says that the inflation is pressuring millions of people. Al Jazeera's Patty Culhane files this report.
You don't usually see people at a food bank look quite as excited as Nancy Canoes.
My birthday cake. Nobody made one. Nobody gave me one. No.
This is not your typical food bank. Manna Food Center in Maryland doesn't just give those in need a box of pre-selected food, but they get to shop for the essentials they actually like.
You want any oranges?
They are now serving the highest number of people in its 40-year history.
Having opportunities like this allow me to use my money in other ways without worrying about having to worry about the struggle of getting food.
Food prices have soared by almost 6% in the U.S. this year, impacting people across the socioeconomic spectrum.
For many of them, they say, this is my first time ever coming to a food bank. I've never asked for help before, but right now I just can't afford the prices in the grocery store and the price of gas and everything else. So a lot of first-time families that we see every week.
The International Monetary Fund forecasts inflation in the U.S. and in most countries around the globe will get better, but not by much.
This year, about 98% of the countries that have inflation targets have inflation above the target. And going into next year, into 2024, that number, is going from 98 to 89.
Which means more people will need to come here, not just in the coming months, but likely years ahead.
And that story there brings us to the end of your news to 6 o'clock. As we go, here's another look at the headlines. A prison officer arrested after attempting to take marijuana into Golden Grove. The acting prison commissioner says rogue officers will be weeded out. Savannah vendors defy orders to move from their location for 1 week to facilitate
Farley Augustine, who was on the High Five Reloaded program on the Tobago Channel 5 last evening, 622-3937. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
It is a
culture and the arts, and pan lovers alike gathered at the Desperados Pan Theatre on Nelson Street, Port of Spain, to celebrate World Steel Pan Day, being added to the observance on the UN's calendar. Mahalia Joseph Wharton has more.
Pan Month will be extra special this year as August 11th will officially be known as World Steel Pan Day on the United Nations calendar. Pan Trimbago already has a number of activities planned for the month, including a church service, the Pan and Powder Steel Band Parade, and Garcia's Pan on the Avenue. Pan Month has been celebrated since 1992 after former Prime Minister the late Patrick Manning declared the steel pan as Trinidad and Tobago's national instrument. During celebrations at the Desperados Pan Theatre, Secretary of Pan Trinbago Denise Hernandez said the observance is important to TNT as our national instrument would finally receive the recognition it deserves on a global stage.
This recognition, when you look at 84 countries supporting and co-sponsoring this resolution, Pan has really gone to the world stage. Pan has really reached its heights, but we know we have a lot more to offer. And for a twin island nation, a small nation, the recognition that the United Nations have given us a day for our national instrument, this is marvelous. Our hearts are filled, we are happy, and we hope that the people of Trinidad and Tobago on Friday, August 11th, will join us in celebrating this marvelous achievement with our plans on that day.
Education Officer Marcus Ash said as a young person in the Pan fraternity, he's excited to see the national instrument showcased on an international level.
Today in 2023, you see a lot of young persons now in a panyard, a sacred space where the steel pan is now used as a form of crime reduction, where young people could do something more than just wear pan. It produces discipline in children, it increases the education. You see where women are prominent in pan today. The narrative that was there in the early 1940s to what is existing in the 2023 is totally different.
To culminate the evening, a toast was made by the Secretary of Pan Trinbago and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, Simone Thorn Mora Quinones. Mahalia Joseph Wharton, TDT News.
Turning to weather, Gia gives us a 2023 Emancipation celebrations. His visit follows Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley extending an invitation to the Ashanti in March 2020 during his visit to Ghana for that country's 63rd independence celebrations hosted in the Ashanti region. According to the Office of the Prime Minister, the Ashanti expressed his eagerness to visit Trinidad and Tobago, his anticipation of the establishment of an Ashanti village in Trinidad and Tobago, and the formation of linkages between the Caribbean and Ghana. Ghana's royal ties to Trinidad and Tobago can be dated as far back as 1881 with the arrival of Prince Kofi Nti of Ashanti, West Africa. In 1883, Prince Kofi Nti designed a signal station which was built at Fort St. George, Port of Spain.
Several representatives of the First Peoples indigenous communities have joined to wholly reject the inauguration of Eric Lewis to the position of cacique. The group referred to an invitation sent out by Mr. Lewis for a coronation ceremony in his name from Prince of Moruga to Grand Chief of the First Peoples Sovereign Nation on August 9th at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception in Port of Spain. But the group consisting of the Warao Nation, Grand Chief Council of San Fernando, and the First Peoples Development questioned the move they claim was a self-proclaimed one.
When it comes to certain claims, he may want to say he's acting on behalf of us. The reason why I'm bringing up this, because he has First Peoples, he does not say what nation, so he's taken control of all. So he can make major decisions with the colonial powers. And we need to be firm that we are the nation to negotiate with.
Denouncing the move, the group said even if he was to be cacique, they would not support someone who has erected or defended a monument to Columbus, given the unspeakable colonial violence and racism endured.
When I saw this is a gross disrespect to the Warao Nation. It has nothing to do with indigenous culture, right? He's going to coronate in a Catholic church, the very people who destroyed our people. We can't stand for that. And then he's going to the parliament to do whatever I don't know.
The group said they will involve the United Nations where there are certain laws to protect indigenous peoples.
The West Indies men faced India over the weekend in the 100th Test match between both countries, a relationship which began in 1948. In commemoration of this landmark achievement, the Queen's Park Cricket Club, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, began a 3-day voluntary blood drive at the Oval's car park, and other noted moments were highlighted. Sachin Ramsubag has more.
In 1962, then Indian captain Nari Contractor was struck on his head from a bouncer, which fractured his skull and led to brain hemorrhaging. Then West Indian captain Sir Frank Worrell became the first person to donate to Contractor's recovery. President of the Queen's Park Cricket Club, Dr. Nigel Camacho, says this drive is to celebrate this and the 100 Test.
So today we are open to the public to come and give blood for the next 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, to be able to save lives.
The WHO recommends for TNT 70,000 units of blood should be available per year to ensure a robust healthcare system. Camacho says we're not even halfway there.
Currently, we receive about 20,000 units a year. So this blood drive in commemoration of a great event is a most welcome initiative for the Ministry of Health, for the country, and we hope that citizens throughout the nation will come down to the Queen's Park Oval right here in Elizabeth Street and come into the mobile unit here at the Queen's Park Oval and donate blood over the next 3 days between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m.
This event is done in partnership with Cricket West Indies, the TTCB, UWI, and the Indian High Commission. Blood donation is a quick process with both pre-screening and donations done in the mobile unit. Camacho was the first person donating and had this message for the nation.
Yeah, so hopefully the small donation helps save someone's life. Don't know who it'll be, but any contribution all of us can make towards helping to save a life, I think we should. So I urge you to volunteer and give blood regularly. It's great for the nation.
Sachin Ramsubag reporting for TTT News.
Remember, you can keep up to date with all that's happening on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TTT Live Online. Up next, sports, and we meet another man.
Welcome back to sport, and we begin across the seas where TTO pro road cyclist Neil Campbell is ranked 125th out of 153 riders after 3 stages of the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift. On Sunday, the Team Jaco Alula rider finished the 123.8 kilometer Clermont-Ferrand first stage 125th in 3 hours 13.00 seconds. The riders climbed for most of 151.7 kilometers, stage 2 from Clermont-Ferrand to Mauriac. Campbell finished 136th in the chasing pack in 4 hours 29.35 seconds. Today, she got in her groove, finishing stage 3, 102nd in 3 hours 49.49 seconds. She's currently ranked 125th overall and her team 19th. Lottie Kopecky won stage 1 and finished second and third in the other 2. She has a 16-second lead heading to the hills of stage 4 from Kohor to Hode. Well done to Campbell. Now, with the second and final test between the West Indies and India ending in a rainy draw, attention now turns to the one-day internationals. That series begins on Thursday in Barbados. We have more on that, plus Test captain Craig Brathwaite's post-series interview.
With the West Indies on 76 for 2 and needing 289 for a victory on the final day to square the series at 1, persistent rain in Port of Spain negated any hope of a result and giving India a 1-0 series win. The West Indies skipper spoke to the media about the outcome.
We were looking forward to day 5. Obviously, 280 runs to win 98 overs was possible, for the win. Obviously, you can't control the weather. I think as a bowling unit, I still think there's areas we could, cut down on our run rates. I think at times we bowl to both sides. So I think we could be a little more disciplined with the ball, controlling the run rate of the batsman at times. And batting wise, we showed some fight here, batting over 100 overs, which was good. But the key is also to be consistent. And the key to consistency is obviously discipline. And as batters, discipline could be if you're practicing every day. and you're not taking it off there. So it just, small things like that.
The one-day international series is scheduled to bowl off at Kensington Oval in Barbados on Thursday, and Cricket West Indies on Monday named the squad to take on the Indians, and it will be led by Shea Hope, and he sees the return of Shamron Hidmaya and O'Shane Thomas to international cricket, while all-rounder Jason Holder and Nicholas Puran will also miss the series, as it was indicated that they are unavailable for selection. There is also the curious absence of Akil Hussain, who has proven to be a formidable all-round threat in this format. The full squad is Shea Hope as captain. The vice-captain is Robman Powell, Alec Atades, Yannick Correa, Casey Carty, Dominic Drakes, Shamron Hipmeyer, Alzari Joseph, Brandon King, Kyle Mayers, Gudakesh Muti, Jane Seals, Romario Shepherd, Kevin Sinclair, and O'Shane Thomas. There are additional players in the camp for the white ball preparation. They are Dennis Bully, Roston Chase, McKenny Clark, Kavem Hodge, Jaher McAllister, Obed McCoy, and Kevin Wickham. The first and second ODIs are scheduled for Bridgetown on July 27th and 29th, while the third will be in Trinidad at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Taruba on the 1st of August. Wayne Cunningham, TTT Sport.
Good luck to the men in maroon. Now, in Tier 2 of the TT Premier Football League, QPCC went to Tobago to defend at the top of the table against second place FC Phoenix. Phoenix, just 2 points behind, was bent on returning to the summit themselves. It made for a tricky fixture.
Tobago hosted the top of the table clash as one of their own welcomed the QPCC to the Call and Recreation Ground in Black Rock. Phoenix already has the league top scorer in Mikel Jem Gordon and were aiming higher for the group as a whole. Both teams came into week 7 unbeaten and both staked their records against a team in great form. A big match in prospect turned into a battle on the grass on the island's southeast coast. It didn't start well for QPCC. A 17th-minute corner was too inviting for Jimmy Lashley, who forgot which end he was on. Own goal, 1-0 to Phoenix. Despite the early goal, the first 45 was predictably tight. Neither side was able to grab a hold of proceedings as they cancelled each other out. And it got tighter still when QPCC produced another stellar header into the right goal this time. Jesus Delicia with the equalizer in the 2nd minute of the first half time added on. In the second half, QPCC tried to play their way. A series of short passes looked to be the start of something good, but before it had a chance to develop, Phoenix reacted. Theirs was a more direct approach. One up to Jem Gordon, he had the presence of mind to slide it in for Che Richards, who slipped in the go-ahead goal in the 51st minute to the delight of the whole crowd. The early second half goal would eventually decide the W's destination. Phoenix back on top with 17 points, QPCC not far behind in second on 16, Police FC 2 a point behind them on 15 to round out the top 3. Jovan Ravello, TTT Sport.
Jania Price is one of 3 triathletes that will be representing Team TTO at the Commonwealth Youth Games in just over a week's time. Tonight on the Road to 7, we hear as she also forms part of a 2-person relay team in the event alongside James Castagna-Hay.
All right, well, my name is Jane Ray Price, and I'm going to be doing triathlon in the Commonwealth Youth Games for Trinidad and Tobago. Definitely an honor. I'm really happy that I was able to get this opportunity, given that this is the first time the triathlon is on the Commonwealth Youth Games schedule to be racing. So I'm really excited, and I'm in the perfect age bracket to be able to be racing. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm really grateful. I think it's really exciting to see that we're finally, being recognized, and it's exciting to see how it's going to move further on in the coming years with more athletes. A lot of work has been put into this, and we're ready to go out and do our best, and I'm feeling prepared. Honestly, it's definitely an honor that I get to be out there and inspiring other athletes, and I'm really grateful, and I hope that more athletes see me and be inspired to want to do sports of their own as well. Honestly, just go out, do my best, and I really want to, show everybody that, Trinidad, we work hard and we do everything together as a country, and that we work together as a team. Apart from just how triathlon is an individual sport, we can still work together, like how James and I are going to be doing the team relay together and showing that we are really as one. It's really exciting. I got really lucky. We already trained together in some aspects, so if it was somebody that I didn't know, I think it would have been a little bit awkward, but I already know James. We're very good friends, so it's easy for us to work together. Apart from training, I mean, most of my time is spent training and preparing for training and races, etc. So apart from that, I'm really just hanging out with my family and my mom, spending time myself, napping, lots of that. I feel like a lot of people that are coming down to the games, they want to see us together as one. Richard and Bago, they want to see us as more than just a country, but a family inside of here. So I really, really hope that we can get a lot of people coming out to look at the games and support our athletes and really showing their support to them.
Great story. Good luck to Miss Price. That's sport. Weather's next. Stay with us.
I was listening this morning, and I will have nothing to say. I have few words to say. But I'll tell you all this. See, moi, I am for righteousness. You understand? Truth and righteousness. And you know what the Bible says? The Bible says that what? Truth and righteousness will exalt a nation. But sin is a reproach to any people. And let me tell you this. I did nothing wrong. That's the most I would say. I, Pastor Google, Kevin Henry, did nothing wrong. But talk the truth. Okay? That is the facts. The facts. So we will continue to talk the facts. The UNC is what running scared. Do you understand? It's the UNC that running scared, not me. You understand what I'm telling you earlier? If they weren't running scared, why am I off the radio? Why? Why am I off the radio if the UNC not running scared? The UNC is running scared. The UNC knows that I only speak truth and righteousness. I didn't talk no lie. You understand? Truth and righteousness. And that's what the UNC is afraid of. You understand? They prefer persons to know, to believe in a lie, but not the eye. Right? So, it's an introduction. We will continue to talk the facts. The UNC is what running scared. Do you understand? It's the UNC that running scared, not me. You understand what I'm telling you earlier? If they weren't running scared, why am I off the radio? Why? Why am I off the radio if the UNC not running scared? The UNC is running scared. The UNC knows that I only speak truth and righteousness. I didn't talk no lie. You understand? Truth and righteousness. And that's what the UNC is afraid of. You understand? They prefer persons to know, to believe in a lie, but not the eye. Right? So, it's an introduction to me letting you all know, you understand, that I haven't gone scared. Nobody ain't shutting me up. Nobody can quiet me or silence me. Nobody. Nobody. Right? So I will continue to do my part in educating my nation. Right? I will continue to do my part. At the end of the day, Trinidad and Tobago, we seeing these people for who they are. We seeing these people for who they are. And what we supposed to do? Just roll over and die? Because Jack Warner, Kamala Pasabi Sessa, and Gary Griffith come together, that is a threat. They are a threat. You all here who come together and believing that they are a threat to this nation, or they are really a threat to the nation. And now I could talk free. This is my place. I could talk free here. It's my place. I could talk here. Nobody can shut me up here. Nobody can give me no memo to tell me I can't say what I want to say. Yeah, this is my place. I could talk here. You understand? So all the lies and the deception and the falsery that the UNC putting out there, we will deal with it. You know what I'm telling you? We will deal with it. Consolidation fund. Oh, they will pick up money. And when they pick up the land and building tax, it will go in a consolidation fund. And when it go in a consolidation fund, the Minister of Finance will then disperse the funds, and he will still be able to tell which borough or city will be able to get lie. He lie. That's what he lie and say, and I correct it, and that's why I'm home. Because he lie. You understand? And that's what they want. They want to push the propaganda and lies out there. That's what they're on. They're on pushing propaganda and lies. So don't correct it. Leave it as it is. That's what they want you to do. So he sit down and he telling Trinidad and Tobago. He ain't read the document, you know. If you listen to him carefully, when I play over the clip, I asked him, I said, did you read the document? Sir, no, I am in the process of reading it. But you're coming to tell me, Victor Roberts, coming to tell me, Google, that, oh, the minister is going to create a consolidation fund, where in that consolidation fund, when they collect the property tax, he, the Minister of Finance, will then disperse the funds in which way he sees fit. I said to him,
into rivers. When these things happen, the rivers where WASA will have their intakes to collect the water, treat the water, and because of all these things that are taking place by human behavior, the cost of treatment of water escalates further. So when we talk about bringing that transformation in the water sector, we also have to regulate the illegal activities that take place that impact WASA's ability to provide you and I with water on a regular basis. It requires regulating those quarry operators, ensuring that we do not have illegal activities around our rainforests that would impact, you know, the quality of the water flowing into the WASA intakes. It ensures then that developers do not abandon homes and communities before they are fully transitioned into some of these maintenance companies to ensure that the plants they are functional and that people don't, you know, raw sewage don't just flow into our water courses. And then how we treat the environment, plastics, and how we throw bottles into the drainage and into the drains and all these things, how we pollute the environment. All of these things impact upon our water supply, all right? Either the surface water or our subsurface water, which is our underground aquifers. How we treat the environment will eventually impact. And then is a real issue that we are faced with coming out of climate change. And then you have extreme weather conditions, not only in the dry season, but in the rainy season, where you're seeing some of WASA's infrastructure, you know, it's under extreme pressure. Pipelines are rupturing because of earth movements that are taking place in some of the large forests where major transmission lines are being disrupted because of earth movements. and drastic decisions, not only to be able to respond to some of the challenges today, but if future generations were to have a more safe and secure water future, there are some critical decisions that we have to make already in the sector, and we've already established an integrated water resource management policy for Trinidad and Tobago for the next 20 years, which will manage the water sector. We've already approved the transmission plan. Very soon, WASA is going to have new executive leadership. We've already started the automation process. And then, of course, we can go into climate change and all of these things. So we can go further into some of these projects, but the transformation is large scale, dealing with WASA as an organization, but also bringing about much needed transformation of the sector, because there are other factors that fall outside of WASA's control that impacts the utility company's ability to provide water to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Nice. And on that note, folks, we take our first break for the evening, and then when we come back, we continue the discussion with Minister Gonzalez, and we're talking WASA, but we're also talking the other public utilities, and then we're going to get into the political side of things. So stay locked, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're tuned into The Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Ramin. And if you're just joining us, we're having a discussion this evening. My guest, the Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez. So before we went to the break, we would have been discussing the whole issue of WASA, some of the challenges that the authority is facing with respect to the provision of a reliable supply of water. You know, WASA has been, for some citizens, you know, a serious bugbear over the years, over the last few decades. Water for all was promised in the year 2000. We know that did not materialize. And so the challenges with respect to the authority has only gotten worse over the period of time. But the minister is, in fact, giving us some ideas as to how, under his responsibility, what is being done in order to improve the situation. So, Minister, you were telling us about some of the projects.
So I've spoken not in great detail because
yes.
I mean, we can stay a whole night here, you know, talking about the myriad of issues inside of the organization. But I just really summarize some of the key challenges as I see it. All right. But we recognize, and I recognize from the start, that this transformation is going to take some time. But we cannot wait for the transformation to be completed in order for people to get water.
Right.
So we have to fix the plane while at the same time fly the plane.
Yes.
So over the last 2 years, we have, under the Community Water Improvement Program, we have undertaken a critical analysis, a deep dive analysis of some of the communities around Trinidad and Tobago where water supply is really undesirable and it requires urgent intervention. So what we recognize first, Dominic, is that at the time you had 32% of the population in 2020 receiving a 24/7 water supply, 32%. Then you had, I can't remember exactly what was the percentage receiving 6 days a week. Then you have people who receive water 5 days, 4 days, 3 days a week, 2 days. And then you have people on the extreme ends getting water once every 9 days. And some people if your schedule is disturbed for one reason or the other. If you're on a 1 in 9 day schedule, that can go into 1 in 18 or 1 in 20 days if that 9-day schedule is disrupted for one reason or the other. So I inform Master and the team at the Ministry of Public Utilities that it does not make sense that we spend scarce financial resources to improve water supply in areas that are already getting a reasonably good water supply.
Right.
So we set a benchmark where our interventions would be on communities that get water under 24 water supply 24/3,
Right.
water 3 days a week. So if your community is getting 3 days a week and more, you don't hear complaints from those areas. The people, they have become quite resilient at 24/3, 24/4. They have their tanks, and by the time the next cycle comes around, it's just to replenish the tanks, and their life it's okay. But you get most of your complaints from citizens who get water once every 9 days, or once a week, or probably twice a week, and if for one reason or the other, WASA cannot meet its schedule, maybe a broken pump, plant going out of operation, etc. So we have decided to respond to communities that are unserved and underserved. So under the Community Water Improvement Program, we designed a number of projects targeting communities that are getting water under 24/3. And those projects, because of scarce financial resources, we've determined that that those projects would cost on average 2 million, 1 million, sometimes 500,000, 600,000, because it may require, for example, in some communities, it may require just undertaking a major pipeline work to integrate that community into the distribution grid. Some of those communities never had access to water. Some of it might involve, the project might involve upgrading of the booster station. So one of the first project that we rolled out under the Community Water Improvement Program was the rehabilitation of that petrol booster in Mova. That's right next to the Lady on Road.
Yes.
That booster station is supplying over 18,000 citizens in that Mova area, upper Mova, Mari Road, and those places. That booster has been in a total state for years. Just one pump working and what have you. On that CWIP, we upgraded that booster. Just using that as an example, we upgraded that booster station. We get all of the standby pumps, and 18,000 people in that area saw an immediate improvement in their water supply. Over the last 2 years, we rolled out and successfully completed 40 projects all over Trinidad and Tobago. And in many areas, communities get water for the very first time. The last project we did was in Aruca. That's the last project we commissioned, where we built a new booster station in Golden Grove. And that booster station was to improve the supply of water to people in 5 Rivers and parts of Aruca. In Paramin, we did a fantastic project where there's a rich water source to the top of Paramin that was never touched. And when we undertook the analysis, the experts said that that river can produce over 800,000 gallons of water per day, bringing almost the whole of Paramin to a 24/7 water supply.
Right.
And the upper parts of Paramin, where you have the famous lookout, never had access to pipe-borne water supply. And we undertook a major community water improvement program there. We built an intake. There's a large tank farm to the top of Paramin, 185,000 gallons of water. The water is being extracted from the river. It's treated. It is stored in that tank farm, and gravity flow into the community.
All of this is taking place in Paramin.
All of this is taking place. And we commissioned that. We commissioned that about a month or 6 weeks ago. And it has moved an area that never received water to to a level of service of 24/7 access to water. And it has been such a significant and successful project that we are now looking at even expanding the zone from that river, because water is flowing and being extracted from that river 24/7. People's tanks are filled, and when people's tanks are filled, they're sleeping at night, the water is still being extracted. You can now export the water to the lower parts of Paramin. So successful was that project. In Guayco Terminal, in Manzanilla, there's a place in Manzanilla North that suffered years for water. Then there's this water treatment plant in in Point Fortin. I'm trying to remember the name of that water treatment plant. It went out of operation for years, and it's located next to a dam. I'm trying to get the name of it because we did a major commissioning there. And when we did the analysis, that dam could have produced 500,000 gallons of water, providing water to parts of Point Fortin.
Right.
And we got that plant back into operation to provide the people in that area with a reliable supply of water. We executed 40 successful sewer projects, rehabilitating boosters, in many cases constructing new boosters. Next week, we are going to be constructing, under the same sewer, commissioning a new booster in Mango Road village in Tunapuna.
Right.
The upper parts of Tunapuna that would normally get a poor supply because the residents live on the hill, you can't get the requisite pressures to get the water up. We constructed a new booster.
How many booster stations have you commissioned so far since you assumed responsibility?
About 15 booster stations.
Okay.
And we rehabilitated perhaps 20. All right. Pipeline projects all over Trinidad. The good news, we have improved the supply of water to over 170,000 citizens under the community water improvement program.
Right.
And we move the percentage of the population getting 24/7 2 years ago from 32% to now 52 or perhaps 55%, because some of those projects that we commissioned, it would have moved it, the needle further to 55, going to 60% of the population getting a supply of water. Two interesting projects in Lopino, again, my constituency, suffering for water. The last plant that was constructed by Hector McLean in the 1940s, and the village of Lopino grew tremendously over the years. And you depending on the same plant, obviously, that plant would not be sufficient to provide the people of Lopino. We constructed a brand new water treatment plant in Lopino, producing an additional 200,000 gallons of water per day. It moved the community of Lopino and surrounding areas from getting water twice a week to 24/7 water supply. So this has been a successful program that improved the supply of water in many communities all over Trinidad and Tobago. Communities that would have complained for years, calling the radio station, sometimes burning tires for to highlight their concerns. You don't hear that anymore because of the intervention and the successes that we've had under the community water improvement program. And in the coming weeks, as I said, we're going to be commissioning the booster station in Mango Road, and before the end of the financial year, we have identified over 30 critical pipeline projects to be rolled out in many parts of Trinidad and Tobago. So you would be seeing all of that taking place. The other part is that we signed an IDB loan where the government got $80 million US, right? So about over 500, 600 million TT dollars. And under that loan program, it is designed to escalate the transformation, to fund the transformation of WASA, and to build institutional capacity. As we spoke about, we need to build institutional capacity to design a water company that would be able to respond to some of the current challenges in climate change, automation, and having a smart water network without having to depend on human beings to control your entire grid using SCADA technology and all of these things. So we are rolling out that as we speak, and very soon the country will be seeing the first rollout of an automated control room for the Water and Sewage Authority, where in this control room, very much similar to this studio, where you would see the water supply in every community, and whenever there's a disruption, you'll be able to see it on a monitor.
Okay.
Before people start calling and complaining and burning tires and calling the media that we haven't had water for 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And these things do happen because this system is too manual, and you don't get real-time availability of information. So with this control center, there are going to be loggers set up on GIS information system being set up all over the water distribution grid, so that the minute you have a disruption because a plant perhaps go down or a pump goes down, you would see it on the control room. Or if a pipe is burst, you would see the drop in pressures. You'll be able to respond immediately, even before the customer is feeling the impact. That is what a modern network is supposed to be. And that is where we're supposed to take the Water and Sewage Authority. All right. So very soon, in October, November, we will be rolling out and commissioning this new monitoring station where the public will see this control center where the entire distribution grid and transmission grid is going to be viewed from a monitoring center, so that whenever you have disruptions, for one reason or the other, WASA is not providing the service, you have boost pipes, etc., that will be picked up on the monitoring center and be able to respond to it. But under the IDB program, I spoke about the state of your infrastructure. Plants are going out of operation, pipelines are being disrupted because of climate change, the need to drill new wells and what have you. So we have met most of the conditionalities to get access to loan, and very soon you will be seeing a lot of tenders in newspapers for the rehabilitation of the North Push water treatment plant is in Valencia. That will impact over 200,000 customers once we rehabilitate that plant from Valencia, Sangre Grande, Manzanilla, all the way up to 5 Rivers. That entire plant is going to be upgraded, and those people who live in that zone will see a dramatic improvement in their water supply. You would be seeing an upgrade of the Hollis water treatment plant again in East Trinidad, and the Guanapo water treatment plant. Parts of Arima that are getting challenges for water will see almost a 24/7 supply of water once we upgrade the Guanapo water treatment plant. Because upgrading the plant, it means that the plant will now be able to treat over 1 million gallons of water more to be able to meet the demand in the Arima area and environs. So the town of Arima and environs will get 24/7 supply of water. In the Freeport catchment zone, we are going to undertake a major refurbishment of the Freeport area. There are a number of areas in Freeport that are getting water once every 9 days. Those areas in Freeport, 25,000 citizens, very soon will see a major improvement in their water supply because we successfully drilled 3 wells that will produce 1 million gallons of water more in the Freeport area to meet the demand, the increasing demand in that area. And we are also going to upgrade the plant to be able to treat the extra water. And by the end of the year, we will commence the drilling of 3 more wells in that whole Freeport catchment area. So over 50,000 citizens living in Freeport and Couva and all of those places, will see a significant improvement in the water supply. In the Chatham water treatment plant, we have already targeted that plant for major upgrade, well drilling, so the people of Cedros and Icacos and parts of Point Fortin that cry out for water supply because of the state of the infrastructure, they would see a lot of activities taking place to drill for new wells, upgrade the plants. And then in Mayaro, another place that suffers a lot for water, we have already started the drilling of 3 wells in the Mayaro area to get an additional 1 million gallons of water that would improve the supply of water to the guest house owner, the people who do Airbnb services, domestic consumers, and what have you. In the Marava water treatment plant, the oldest plant in Trinidad that was constructed in the 1800s. That Marava water treatment plant is also earmarked for major upgrades, so to be able to improve the supply of water of people who live all along the Saddle Road and Highland Park, Mocha. And we're going to be constructing a new water treatment plant in Santa Cruz. I'm very passionate about that because the Santa Cruz River can produce 3 million gallons of water per day. And that water just flows through. Like nothing. Like a dose of salt through the system. We are going to be constructing or upgrading the Santa Cruz water treatment plant, where that water is going to be extracted, treated, and distributed to the whole of Santa Cruz. And the whole of Santa Cruz will be able to get 24/7 supply of water. You will now be able to access additional water to export out of Santa Cruz to provide the people of Tuna, people of St. Augustine, San Juan, and Mount Hope will now be getting water from Santa Cruz as opposed to the Caroni water treatment plant. And the water from Caroni water treatment plant that would go all the way to Santa Cruz, you can now redistribute it to some parts of the East-West corridor, because that water no longer has to go to Santa Cruz, because Santa Cruz is now producing the water that it requires. So it frees up about 5 million gallons of water from the Caroni water treatment plant that you can send to other areas where the water supply is not that good, such as the great impact we have. And in East Tobago, in a place they call Goldsboro, a new water treatment plant is going to be constructed there. It is estimated that that plant will produce 2 million gallons of water for the people of East Tobago, bringing most parts of East Tobago to to 24/7 supply of water. And I showed you a picture a short while ago. We are currently drilling some new wells in Bad Hill and Mary's Hill. The information that I've received so far, we turned the sod just 6 weeks ago, and yesterday they hit water. It looks as though the well is going to produce nearly 1 million gallons of water. So the whole area in Southwest Tobago, which is in Crown Point and surrounding areas, will get a major boost in their water supply 24/7. And of course, last week we commissioned a 7.4 16-inch kilometer pipeline from Signal Hill straight down to Crown Point in Tobago to be able to supplement water from a nearby well field to provide to those guest houses and those areas where people suffer for water when they visit Tobago. And that area, based on investment that we have made on the CWIP Community Water Improvement Program, a new booster station, the additional pipeline, that transmission pipeline that we successfully commissioned last week, I can tell you, the guest houses in Tobago that suffered for 20 years for supply of water, they no longer have a problem. So a lot is happening. I'm very excited about what is happening. This thing about water for all in the past is one of perhaps the biggest hoax on the population. Over $1 billion was accessed from the IDB to improve the supply of water. All of these plants that I'm talking about that are in a state of disrepair, none of those plants were upgraded. No wells were drilled during that period of so-called water for all. You understand? What I can tell you is that they lay down pipelines all over. They create the impression that they were providing water to citizens. And those pipelines today have not, water is not flowing through those pipelines. Because if you lay down pipelines all over the country and you're not increasing production, where are you going to get the water? For the pipe to flow through the pipelines. So it has been a major hoax. Billions of dollars spent. There was no improvement in the supply of water, no upgrade of your infrastructure, no upgrade of plants, no investment in technology, no more modernization of the utility company, no transformation of the utility company to ensure that it is a company that can respond to some of the present day challenges. And that's the reason why it is bad investment over the years. A lot of corruption, mismanagement, interference in the management of the utility company. And we have brought that to an end. And therefore, every dollar that we are spending, citizens can see, even if it means 200 citizens in a community, or 500 or 5,000 or 10,000 people are seeing improvement in their water supply. So I know, as a lot of people who listen to this program will say, but my water supply is terrible, and I'm getting water once every 9 days. The last time I get water is 5 days, 5 weeks ago. When am I going to see the improvement in the water supply? My response to those citizens is that we hear you, and it is because of your pleas and your cries over the years, we have decided to undertake a series of projects all over Trinidad and Tobago. A number of the communities that I have mentioned, the 40 communities, they were once crying out like you for an improvement in their supply of water. They are no longer crying out. We are continuing to roll out, and we know the areas that are critical. Cedras, Icacos, Freeport, Mayaro, and parts of Sangre Grande, to name a few. And East Port of Spain and Belmont, Quarry Road, Leyland Hills, some of those areas where development would have spread and the infrastructure would not have been improved to meet the growing demands. As we speak, we have teams on the ground in East Port of Spain tackling the issue, introducing technology so that we can see when some of the upper points of Belmont not getting water or Gonzales not getting water. We're no longer going to be depending on people calling their MPs or calling their councillors that they don't have water. You can't get trucks because of the road is too narrow, trucks cannot go up. We are going to be deploying technology in East Port of Spain. We are going to improve the infrastructure in Picton, where the reservoirs are going to be filled to their capacity. We are going to automate the entire Picton Lavantil system so that we can get the requisite pressures to send water to some of the hilly terrain in Upper Gonzales and Quarry Road in Belmont and what have you. So there's a lot of things taking place. We are drilling a number of wells to meet the demands in those areas that have been suffering for water. And we have drilled over 10 or 15 new wells already over the last 2 years. And within the next 12 months, we're expecting to drill over 30 new wells strategically in areas that are suffering for water to improve water, the availability of water, building the treatment plants in those communities. So those areas in Mayaro, in Muruga, in Cedros, in Icacos, in some parts of central Trinidad, in parts of Valencia, in East Port of Spain, parts of Tobago. In the coming 12 months, a lot of activities will be taking place, and you will be seeing an improvement in the supply of water.
Any plans to implement metering?
Yes, there must be metering. I
Yeah.
can tell you, you cannot run a water utility company if you don't meter your customers. As a
Right.
matter of fact, you cannot manage what you don't measure.
Yeah.
Metering is very, very important in terms of how we conserve water.
Right.
When citizens know and customers know that every drop of water that you use, it is being measured.
Right.
It forces that customer to be more conservative in how that water is used.
Right.
So you don't leave a running hose in your yard, or a tap running in your kitchen, or a leaking tank, an overflowing tank that has been just wasting water for years, and
Right.
the neighbor who live on the higher part of the hill can't get water because the pressure is dropping because you're not fixing some leak on your house. All of these things. But if you are metered, if your tank has a leak, you're going to fix it. You're not going to leave a running hose in your yard, or to wash down your yard and power wash every single day and what have you. It changes behavior of the citizens. And when you and I conserve water and our neighbors conserve this depleting resource, more water becomes available for the utility company to send and to discharge to communities that are unserved and underserved. How you do metering is what is important. Because we are in a very difficult situation, the question is, do we take limited financial resources and invest in metering?
Right.
When so many areas are suffering for water, what are you going to be metering? Air?
Yeah.
You want to be able to meter water.
Right.
Or do you take the limited financial resources, improve the supply of water, ensure that you have a regular and a constant supply of water to the citizen, and then you introduce metering so that you can regulate the use of the water when it becomes available. So what we will do and what we are planning to do is introduce metering where communities are already on a 24/7 supply. So it has to be done in this way. Once that community is getting water 24/7, then you introduce metering so that the community and the customers in that zone, in that supply zone, would just pay for water depending on their usage. If you don't use the water, you don't pay.
Right.
You pay for what you use. All right? Contrary to certain beliefs, metering results in most instances in a reduction in revenue or decline in revenues. Because as it is right now, if you don't get water for a month, Dominic, you still get a bill.
Yes. Right.
And you hear people complain, but I'm not getting water.
Yes.
But if it's one thing that will come,
Is the bill.
is the bill.
Yeah. Yes.
And that is so, because you're not metered.
Right.
But if you are metered and you don't get the service, then the technology will not charge you for what you don't get.
Right.
So if you get water once per month,
the bill reflects that.
The bill will reflect that.
Right.
So it is a very just and equitable system. It is not a system to be afraid of, and the way a lot of people demonize it. It is very fair because you pay per use. And by paying per use, automatically, it forces you, the customer, the customer, to conserve and to regulate the way in which we use it. So there are some parts of Trinidad where we get 24/7 water supply. We are looking at metering, but of course that money will come from Masters revenue. The improvements that we've made in Southwest Tobago, I mean, it has been a model improvement.
Right.
2 years ago, Dominic, as Minister of Public Utilities, I remember for Easter, there was no rest for me. When you all were relaxing and spending time with your family, I was on the phone with the commissioners on the ground in Tobago, because everybody would have traveled. It was coming out of the pandemic, and a lot of people traveled to Tobago. Over 75,000 people left Trinidad and they went to Tobago, all right, coming out of the pandemic. And the situation in Southwest Tobago was so dire that we had to ensure that there was a fleet of water trucks from Trinidad to deploy it in Southwest Tobago to be able to water truck water to all of these guest houses. That was the reality 2 years ago and last year. And because of the improvement that we've made, this dry season passed. There was no request for water trucks. Last year, for the Tobago Carnival, we commissioned that booster station under the Community Water Improvement Program. It was able to supply all of the guest houses in Southwest Tobago with a reliable supply of water. And the further improvement that we made with the additional wells, the main transmission line, that entire area comprising 11,000 Tobago residents and 75,000 visitors at peak season will soon see a 24/7 supply of water. What then do you do when you invest all of that money to improve the supply of water? Those guest houses are using large volumes of water, all right? And they are not being charged for what they consume, those businesses. And we thought that it would be a good idea to introduce metering in all of the guest houses in Southwest Tobago so that they pay for what they consume. Because they no longer complain of not having a supply. The government has invested millions of dollars to improve the supply of water. Water truck is no longer operating in Southwest Tobago, all right? And you are getting a supply. Very soon, more wells will come into operation. And that entire Southwest region will move to a 24/7. And we believe it is a perfect area in the country to introduce metering. And by introducing metering, it means that every customer will monitor the way in which they use water. And now you will have excess water to be able to redistribute to areas that do not have 24/7.
Excellent. So on that point, we go to our second break for the evening, folks. So when we come back on the other side of the break, we talk tea and tech, the RIC, maybe even the Salcott. So stay locked. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Romain. I have as my guest this evening the Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez, and we're discussing the different utility companies, some of the challenges that the ministry is facing, and what are the strategies that are currently being put in place to alleviate some of those issues. And we were talking WASA before, and the minister would have outlined a number of different programs and policies that the authority would have put in place, and so persons should be seeing improvement in their water supply. And if you're not, you can expect to be seeing that very soon. So now we change up gears a little bit and we switch across now to tea and tech. Of course, we know that there was the recent RIC consultation with respect to the possibility of increasing rates, electricity rates, and it was met with a bit of pushback from the population. But again, people tend to push back when there is a lack of information. And there was a lot of misinformation. We would have seen what the opposition would have done, attending all of the different meetings and coming with all sorts of propaganda and the like. And so we want to dispel some of that information, some of that misinformation this evening. So, Minister, what are the questions people have? Is that what is the role of the minister, the ministry, and the cabinet with respect to any decisions that are taken by the RIC upon completion of this consultation?
Absolutely no role.
Right.
Absolutely no role. So contrary to what the population was fed with by the United National Congress, that this is a policy on the part of the government to increase electricity and to increase water rates, and that is some secret plan by the Rowley government and Marvin Gonzalez to increase water rate. Nothing could be further from the truth. But in any event, the issue of rate review is always a contentious issue in any parts of the world. And because of that, most Commonwealth countries have decided to put in place an independent regulator that will look at the issue of rate and the review of rates for utilities, particularly water and electricity, because of the fact that it can become very hot topic political issues, and political parties and governments of the day because of the unpopularity, the potential unpopularity of a rate increase for water and electricity, it may have on the governing party of the day, they have always shied away from implementing revising rates and imposing rate reviews for water and electricity.
Good economics equates to bad politics.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they decided to pass laws, set up independent regulators that will look not only at the issue of the customers paying a fair rate for the utilities, but ensuring that those utility companies they operate in such a way that they can provide the citizens with fair and equitable and affordable service. Because this is life. This is about your economy. This is about livelihood. An economy and a country cannot function without water, without electricity. Without water, you can't go to school, you can't bathe, you can't function in your homes, you can't have any commercial or industrial activities, and the same for electricity. So the regulator, and in our case, we have the Regulated Industries Commission that is appointed by the president, of course, on the advice of the cabinet, and they are allowed to operate independently from the politics, from any political directive. There is no provision in the RIC Act, as far as I am aware, that allows or asks or mandates the RIC to act upon the directive of the Minister of Public Utilities. The RIC must be allowed to operate independently. Unfortunately, in several instances in the past, the RIC was not allowed to operate independently, and that is the reason why you have, for the last 25 years or more, and we never had a rate review for water.
Right.
And the last time we had a rate review for electricity was 2009, as the case may be. But that is an undesirable situation. And even though it is a very unpopular issue, because nobody wants to pay more for water, nobody wants to pay more for electricity. But how important is a rate review for the utility companies? The transformation policy for WASA speaks directly to the need for a revision of the rates that we pay for water.
Right.
Because the transformation policy recognizes, and other transformation plans in the past recognize, that you cannot transform WASA and you cannot expect the water utility company to improve its levels of service if the rate it is collecting the 1993 rates.
Right.
The money has to come from somewhere.
And that's the actual rates, 1993.
It's 1993 rates.
Right.
The rates that we pay for water in Trinidad and Tobago is the lowest in the world.
Right.
1993. And that's the reason why WASA is collecting this about $700 million.
So 30 years ago.
It's 30 years ago. The same for TNTech. The last time we had a review for TNTech was 2009. Oh, how things have changed since 2009. Oh, how things have changed since 1993 in the area and in the water sector all over the world. COVID, the global pandemic, the supply chain issues all over the world have impacted the operation of utility companies. It has increased the cost of operation. A lot of TNTech suppliers are international suppliers. The transformers, the conductors, they are not produced in Trinidad and Tobago. They are supplied by international companies and utility companies. TNTech cannot get and acquire and to purchase these things to ensure that you and I get electricity by telling these people, well, look, listen, well, the rates that we are collecting is not enough for us to pay for it. When TNTech faces its international suppliers, they have to pay the price, the market price for these things. The same thing for WASA. The cost for treatment has increased exponentially since 1993. Chlorine and all other treatment things that you use to get water into our taps. The price of pumps have increased. The price of all of the treatment process to get water and to extract water have all increased. The price of drill wells have all increased. So the money has to come from somewhere. But yet still, the issue of rate review, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but all over the world, it is politicized.
Right.
And in the politicization, it is all geared towards fooling people. So that those issues that I'm talking about, prices, therefore utility companies to operate independently and efficiently so that you can get a reliable supply of water and a reliable supply of electricity. The discussion is muddied and people are not of the government and making all kinds of couture and bacchanal and confusion and disrupting the affairs that citizens who want to know the real issue with respect to the price that is being proposed and the prices that are being proposed for the various categories, both for water and electricity, so that they can be educated on the challenges faced and how important the revision in those rates are for providing you with water and electricity. The citizens are deprived of that opportunity because you do not know what is facts and you don't know what is fiction.
Right.
Because it's just misinformation. So with respect to TNTech, I've spoken about rising costs to even produce electricity. And then TNTech purchases its electricity from independent power producers.
Right.
Those independent power producers also have their international suppliers. So the cost that they pay and they transmit that electricity to TNTech continues to rise. And then the cost of gas, you understand, is also a fluctuating price. These days it's not that high, but some months ago it reached somewhere about $7 or $8 per MMBTU, US dollars per MMBTU. But yet still when TNTech purchases the gas from NGC to give to the independent power producers, they continue to pay $1.60. $1.60.
Right.
So you're even depriving the country of the opportunity to earn hundreds of millions of dollars to get a market price for its gas.
Right.
To improve your living circumstances, better healthcare, better education. That money is now being sucked in and consumed in providing cheap gas to TNTech, to provide cheap electricity to all of us. And TNTech is grappling with rising prices on the international market to get its supplies from its providers externally and locally, and not even paying NGC for the subsidized price of gas.
Right.
The $1.60, when NGC could take that same gas and sell it to its petrochem industries and make much more money. So NGC is taking the hit. You, the taxpayers, taking the hit. And all of us taking the hit. TNTech is in a very unfortunate financial circumstance because it doesn't have the money to pay NGC. It is owing NGC $6 billion right now.
Wow.
And rising. All right. It cannot meet its financial obligations, its international suppliers. And all TNTech is saying that because of all of these issues, in order for us to provide you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, with a reliable supply of electricity, if we have to undertake the necessary routine maintenance on our infrastructure to change transmission lines, distribution lines, transformers, conductors, and all of these things, if we do not collect enough revenue to be able to do these things, we wouldn't be able to provide you with a reliable supply of electricity. But if you put it in the politician's hands, you will get nothing done.
Yes.
Because no politician wants to wear the badge of honor to take the unpopular decision.
Yes.
Because these things are so, unpopular. It's okay. We have an independent regulator, the RIC. Let the RIC interface with the utility providers. The utility providers now have to apply for a rate increase to the RIC. It doesn't come to the Ministry of Public Utilities or the government. It's an application process, and they have to put together a comprehensive and a sound business plan to convince the RIC that it requires a rate review to be able to continue to provide its service to the customers. It is something that they have to go before the board and the technocrat there and justify The RIC will listen to the information, and the RIC will say, okay, yes, we agree with you. No, we don't agree with you. We believe that you can cut down cost here.
Right.
We believe that you're spending too much money in overtime. You can cut down some costs here. So this proposed price increase, we don't agree with it. If you cut down on some of these operational costs, your request for that rate increase, or
Yeah.
the amount of rate increase that you're requesting, may not be as much, because we ask you to examine other areas in which you can save.
Right.
We ask you to invest in technology so that you can lower your operational costs. All of these things are done within the interaction process between the utility provider and the regulator.
Right.
All right. And when the regulator looks at the business plan, looks at its model, and is convinced that there is justification for a rate increase, the regulator publishes a draft determination and now takes it to the population to engage in discussions with the population as to why this rate increase is necessary. But when you get politicians now getting involved in that discussion, making bacchanal and confusion all over the place, the citizens and the customers don't know what is truth and what is fiction. And they believe that the RIC is this big dragon and big bad wolf that is there to make your life miserable. Rates are critical for the survival of utility companies. If they do not collect their rates, or collect rates that are in sync with modern market trends and realities, then the utility providers will not be able to provide you with a reliable supply of electricity. It will impact your economy. It will impact our way of life, and it can result in a decline in our standard of living.
And it can affect foreign direct investment
Foreign
as well.
direct investment.
Yeah.
So it has serious consequences for a country. So whilst I understand that this is something that people are concerned, and rightly so, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago must understand the impact of this process, the seriousness of this process, and allow the independent regulator to do its work and to come up with rates that are affordable, all right, protecting the most vulnerable citizens in the country, whilst allowing those who can pay the revised rates the opportunity to provide those rates. And the government has said that when and in the event that the RIC has decided to increase or to revise the rates for water and electricity, we as a government will put in place a utility card policy so that vulnerable citizens in the country can have access to a utility card, so that they can continue to have and afford water and electricity. And those citizens of means and who have the capacity to pay for the water and pay for electricity, they would pay, so that the utility company can provide and to get their much needed revenue in order so that they can function effectively, so that they can provide all of us with a reliable level of service. That is how simple this is. So the government does not have any role to play under the RIC Act. The RIC is an independent body, and they have the power in law to revise, to review the rates, the utility rates in Trinidad and Tobago, as in any other country in the world. And the law mandates that before they do so, they must engage in active discussions with citizens to educate citizens on the real issues before the imposition of a final determination on it. Where is the RIC right now? They have published their draft determination. They've engaged in the business sector and all over in NGOs and what have you, and citizens who wrote to them privately. They are now distilling the issues and coming up with and very soon they will be making a determination. In a final determination, they will inform to allow TNTech the green light, because TNTech does not have the power to increase and to revise electricity rates. That is determined by the RIC. And it is only when the RIC informs TNTech that we have looked at your business model, we have engaged in discussions with our stakeholders, we will now publish our final determination. That is only when the utility company, in this case TNTech, can implement the revised rates for electricity in Trinidad and Tobago. So the government is looking, and when the government is informed of the new rates, the government will look at it, and then the government will determine how we are going to put in place an appropriate subsidy structure to protect the most vulnerable citizens in the country. And I've already started working with the Ministry of Digital Transformation and the Ministry of Social Development and the Ministry of Public Utilities. All of these state agencies have already started working together on the policy, because we anticipate that the final determination is going to be published by the RIC, and we don't want to be caught napping, so that once that determination is published, we will be ready to implement the utility card system so that we can protect the most vulnerable in the country.
The SALCOT.
Yes, the SALCOT is a critical stakeholder in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago, by previous government, entered into a water sales contract with the SALCOT as well as Seven Seas. So there are two desalination companies in Trinidad. So you have Seven Seas operating in Point Fortin, in Point Fortin in South Trinidad, providing WASA with $5 million of water per day. And then you have the SALCOT operating in Central Trinidad, Point Lisas, providing WASA with approximately $40 million of water per day. Those contracts are take or pay, meaning that you take or you don't take, you still have to pay. You understand? And that is one of the arrangements that has really bankrupted WASA. All right. If we remove the desalination contracts off the table where WASA is concerned, WASA will be making a profit.
Wow.
Can I say that again?
Please.
If you remove the desalination contracts off the table, WASA will be very close to making a profit or breaking even.
Right.
That means that WASA's operational expenditure, a significant part of it, is as a result of the water sales agreement with the SALCOT and Seven Seas. In the case of Seven Seas, the SALCOT is about $6 million per month. So it's approximately $800 million annually the state pays in the both water sales contract. So if WASA is operating at 2.4 or 2.7 billion dollars, and you remove $8 million from that, you take it off the table. So then its operational expenditure would drop by $800 million.
Right.
You understand? So you come out about 2.9 or $1.9 million dollars. You understand? It is making about, if you increase WASA's WASA can increase its collections from $800 million per year to about $1 billion. It means that as opposed to the government spending nearly $2 billion, the government can just prop up WASA for somewhere in the region of about $700 million.
And a point of clarity where you mentioned WASA's collection, because we know there are a lot of citizens who are not paying the WASA bill. We saw it for COVID when people were lining up when WASA started the disconnection drive, and then
domestic customers are owing WASA about $500 million. Wow. Commercial customers are owing WASA $200 or $300 million. So if WASA were to collect all of its revenues from its customers, it will put WASA in a healthy financial position, whereby it can wean itself off the state and the Ministry of Finance, and it can raise enough money in order to undertake critical moves on its infrastructure and even undertake capital investment to expand the levels of service. It will put WASA in a financial position whereby it can go to the bank and borrow large sums of money on its own, based on a healthy balance sheet. So, WASA would be able to borrow billions of dollars to undertake major infrastructure work to improve the supply of water. It is not rocket science.
So citizens are in fact shooting themselves in the foot by not paying the bills.
And that's why we say when we talk about reforming the water sector, it means not only WASA, because you see in Trinidad and Tobago, we like a beaten body. We like someone to blame for a situation. And oftentimes we don't look at ourselves and we don't look at how we behave and our behavior that may be contributing to the problem. And by not paying a bill, and of course people like to say, well, if I'm not getting the service, what I'm paying. But you also have people who get and they're not paying. That is also a reality. And if those citizens who get a reliable supply do pay, then WASA is going to be in a more healthy financial position. It can wean itself off the banks and the Ministry of Finance. It will be in a position to be able to invest in automation, invest in its infrastructure, and improve its levels of service all over. So when you talk about transformation, it's transforming the way in which we as citizens behave more responsibly towards the utility company. It's not about just beating up and beating. Sometimes, in many instances, we are contributing to the problem. All right? So rates is very critical. As let me repeat what I was saying. What is joke for scuba is dead for crapo. Rates are very, very sacrosanct to any utility company, be it water or electricity. If they don't collect their rates or collect a reasonable market rate for their service, then the utility companies will not be able to provide you with the service that you believe that you desire. And if you want to disrupt a review process by an independent regulator, then it means that the utility company will not be able to purchase its supplies from its external suppliers, its local suppliers, be it external contractors, to undertake routine maintenance to be able to provide you with the service.
And on that note, folks, we take another break. And when we come back on the other side, Jack is back. Yes. So don't touch it out. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Romain, and sitting right next to me, of course, is the Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez. And we've been having a very interesting conversation so far this evening, a lot of information that the population would not normally be privy to. And that is why we have this new program, so we could get in-depth into the real issues and to provide you with the information to make the most informed decisions. Right? So we have been discussing WASA, the public utilities. We change it up a little bit now when we go into the politics. So, Minister, Jack is back. You would have, Mr. Warner would have been your opponent in the last general election. And your constituency is an interesting one in terms of the demographic makeup. And I was making the point because as a former member, well, not member, but part of the ILP, when I was told that Mr. Warner was going to contest that seat, I said, that's a difficult route because there are certain areas in that constituency, there's nothing Mr. Warner could offer that they want, right?
That's right.
So said, so done.
Yeah. A lot of people predicted that he was going to defeat me. People who don't understand the constituency.
Right.
Mr. Warner is a resident of Five Rivers, so he's a resident of the constituency. And even though in his entire political life, he represented constituencies outside of Five Rivers.
Yes.
It was the first time that he was offering himself public service in the constituency under the ILP. And when you look at the voting patterns in the constituency of Oakland West, UNC would normally garner approximately 5,000, 6,000 votes.
Right.
And the PNM, would get maybe 10,000 votes, a little bit over 10,000. In 2020, I got about 9,600 votes, so almost 9,700. Mr. Warner got 4,000, and the UNC would have gotten 3,000. All right, it was a convincing victory. But I was new to the politics at the time, and I was a virtual unknown in the political landscape, fighting a very experienced person like Mr. Warner. But I worked with Mr. Warner when I was head of the legal department in the Ministry of Works.
Okay.
And he was Minister of Works and Transport.
Right.
Mr. Warner knows me very, very well, and I know him very well.
Right.
Of course, I will never divulge discussions that I shared with him when I worked with him in my capacity, as it would be unprofessional of me to do that. So I wouldn't go down that route. But at that point in time in 2020, a lot happened with Mr. Warner in the political landscape. The bombshell stories coming out of FIFA that incriminated him in all kinds of corrupt and scandalous behavior. The non-payment of monies owed to our national footballers who represented us so well in Germany and not receiving payment. Monies unaccounted for in CONCACAF, because he was also vice president of the CONCACAF region. Monies accounted for that was dispatched to assist Haiti. Monies not being accounted for. Being expelled as or rather fired as Minister of National Security because of all of these issues that he was having, not only locally, but regionally and internationally. Being expelled as chairman of the United National Congress, and all of these things. When I looked at that, I saw Mr. Warner not just as a normal opponent, but I saw him as an unworthy opponent, because I believed that any citizen faced with all of these legal challenges should not offer himself or herself for public office in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Because to do so, it is an affront to everything that we believe in. It is a gross disrespect to our young people, especially so many of our young people who are crying out for leadership and who have a perception about politicians, this very noble profession where you can impact the lives of people in a positive way. Many people do not share good views and impression about politicians. They see us as all corrupt, and that is because of the misbehavior of a few. So when Mr. Warner offered himself as an opponent for public service again in the constituency of Lupino Borneo West, I thought it was necessary for me to hit every home in the constituency and to demonstrate to the national community, not only in Lupino Borneo West, but the national community, our regional and international partners, that we as a country will not tolerate that kind of conduct in our politics. And therefore, I hit the ground with a certain degree of vigor and passion, because I thought that Mr. Warner was bad for Trinidad and Tobago, and his presence in the politics is a disrespect to our citizens. And I campaigned and I campaigned, and I did not take him for granted, because I know he has deep pockets, and the resources that he had at his disposal, I certainly did not have that kind of resources. So my campaign was really a ground campaign, and I knocked on every door as best as I can. And as a political unknown, I promised the people that I will do my best to represent them professionally with ethics and morality, and that we will defeat Mr. Warner, and we are going to bring honor to the constituency of Lupino Borneo West. And he was so defeated, and I was happy on the night of election in 2020 that he said that he was going to step down as political leader of the Independent Liberal Party, and he's going to resign from politics. And I said, hallelujah. Trinidad and Tobago will not be seen in a particular way. And I didn't have much to say about him, even though he would have used his Sunshine newspapers to attack me from time to time. And I know he was operating behind the scenes. So he would use his writers in the newspapers to attack the government, attack me as minister and his parliamentary representative. But on this occasion, when so much more occurred, where Mr. Warner's conduct was brought into question, to the extent that it was serialized in a Netflix movie, FIFA, or series, FIFA Uncover, where the tale of bribery and corruption involving Mr. Warner, not only as FIFA Vice President and CONCACAF Vice President, but even when he operated in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, where deals were made in Hyatt and some places in Port of Spain. It is really, really disheartening as a Trinidadian to hear a son on the sea, a son of your soil, being questioned and being implicated in this particular way. Now there's an extradition warrant out for him, where the United States authorities require his presence so that he can answer certain charges for which he was indicted. Many of the people who were indicted with Mr. Warner already served their term of imprisonment. He is just one of the few that is awaiting full extradition so that he can answer for his crimes, his alleged crimes in the United States. Today, Mr. Warner is making an entry or re-entry into the political sphere, being provided with cover by a leader of the opposition who supposed to know better, who claim that, she is a mother and she cares about Trinidad and Tobago and she loves Trinidad and Tobago, her heart is clean and her hands are pure, and all of these things that she likes to say about herself. And to see that Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, the leader of the opposition, now embracing Warner in a political accommodation with a former commissioner of police, interestingly, a former commissioner of police who recently applied for the job of commissioner of police, sitting on the same platform with someone who is convicted in the United States for all kinds of bribery and international crimes in what they call a political accommodation. I think it's a dark day in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago, and it will forever stain our political history. There's going to be nothing that we can do as a country that is going to erase this dark, nasty, devious state on the politics of Trinidad and Tobago. Forget the UNC, forget about the ILP, forget about the, NTA. Forget about them, the PEP and all of that. Let us see ourselves as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. This should bother all of us. This should concern all of us. The signal that we are sending to our international partners, not too long ago, we were celebrating and commemorating the 50th anniversary of CARICOM in Port of Spain, where all CARICOM leaders assembled in Port of Spain to mark this very remarkable achievement. But in addition to that, we had visiting dignitaries at the senior diplomats from the United States. The chief of state, the minority leader in the Congress and other congressional leaders, the president of Rwanda and other dignitaries came to Port of Spain and celebrated and recognized and committed to our CARICOM affairs and that body that is CARICOM, representing an entire region of millions of people. We were proud as Trinidadians and Tobagonians that we were able to celebrate this very remarkable, achievement in our international affairs. All these leaders visited. And just about 2 weeks after, we have political leaders in Trinidad and Tobago embracing persons or a person who is wanted in the United States and who is well known to the entire world, especially the United States and the United Kingdom, for crimes and corruption in FIFA and other things. And this is a signal that we are sending to our international partners. So when we register very low on the global index for corruption, we have to look at all of that. Don't blame the Prime Minister. Don't blame the PNM. Look at what we are encouraging as a people and as citizens And no wonder we are seen as very corrupt and registering very low on these corruption indices around the world. What message is that sending to our children who continue to cry for good leadership and to sound leadership? What message is Kamala Persad-Bissessar sending to our people, to all our people and our children, when you enter into an accommodation with someone who you told should clear your name before you come back? Who would have said all kinds of manner of things that you cannot even mention on this program about Kamala Persad-Bissessar and all the people, about Rudal Munilal, about Barry Padaras and all of them. He said all manner of things about them. And they said all manner of things about him. Where he and the same Gary Griffith talk about her having 5-day weekends. And he would have spoken about her having drunken parties at the diplomatic center and where she lives.
The allegation that she would have received some $8 million for Section
34.
34.
For Section 34. All of these things. Jack Warner and Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Gary Griffith, again, are in what we call a political accommodation to win the upcoming local government election. I see that as nothing but an unholy trinity comprising these three individuals. It is nothing but a naked and desperate grab for power, hoping that national office and public office would save them from the long arms of the law. And all I am asking Trinidadians and Tobagonians is to look carefully and ask yourself, is this what you want for your country? Is this what you want for your children? Is this the Trinidad and Tobago that Dr. Eric Williams envisaged when he went up to Marlborough House and negotiated independence for us? Is this what education and free education has produced for us as a country? Is this a reflection of our moral and spiritual values that we boast about in our constitution? Where are these people seeking to take us down? It is time, and this is the time, that regardless of where you stand on the political divide in the country, that we have to unite as Trinidadians and Tobagonians in one voice and reject what is being offered to us. Because what they are seeking to do is to normalize criminal behavior and bad conduct and immoral conduct so that ordinary citizens and citizens will not be able to differentiate what is good and what is bad, what is evil and what is good. They are seeking to normalize bad behavior, and therefore, as I said in a release, it is a poison dagger aimed at our collective conscience as a country. And that is what, and this is how I see this development to be. As a member of parliament, and as a minister in the government, the People's National Movement, I have a duty as one of the leaders in the country to fight against this. And I'm going to use my platform and all the platforms that I have at my disposal to call it out and to reject it out of hand. I will not be intimidated by Mr. Warner in his personal criticism of me and trying to stigmatize me and trying to distract me by his nasty behavior and his nasty insinuations. I'm not going to be distracted by that. I will use the opportunity I have and the platform that I have to call him out, to call out Kamala Persad-Bissessar and Gary Griffith, because they are a danger to the body politics of Trinidad and Tobago. That's what I see.
But even some of Mr. Warner's utterances last night would have been, to me, echoes of what you hear almost every night on Douglas Politics with Andy Roberts. This man is a senator, and it's the same thing.
It is the same, and remember, the same Kamala Persad-Bissessar who is now embracing Jack Warner and open up the platform to bring this convicted felon, international convicted felon, into the political sphere once more and offering him as a leader in this country. It is the same Kamala Persad-Bissessar who has appointed Arnold Roberts to the Senate. He
Yes.
is not an elected member of the parliament.
Yes.
He is an appointed member because the leader of the opposition, in accordance with the constitution that we subscribe to, has the authority to appoint 6 senators. 6 senators. And she has taken that constitutional power that's been given to her in her capacity as leader of the opposition, and appointed people the likes of Anil Roberts and Nakid and Wade Mark and all of them, and give them a voice in one of the esteemed parliament and the esteemed halls, constitutional halls of this country, where they use that platform and they hurl all kinds of insults against leaders and institutions. They would have used their same position and attacked the president when they sought to impeach the former president. And you would have seen, and the country would have seen how they conducted themselves, basically desecrating the parliament, interestingly, on the 27th of July, when the parliament was attacked by guns and violently in the July 27 insurrection. Interestingly, on the 27th of July, we would have witnessed another desecration of the parliament, this time led by appointed members of the House, and on this occasion, the Senate. We ought not to take this for granted. The country must not take this for granted. And if you believe what happened in the United States a year or 2 years ago, where the Congress was desecrated by extremist factions in the Republican Party, attempting to prevent a peaceful transfer of power after a democratically held elections. If you feel that cannot happen in Trinidad and Tobago, think again. Because the stage is now being set for this to be repeated in Trinidad and Tobago by having people of this nature enter into our political sphere and giving them political authority where they can disrupt our way of life and desecrate our democratic constitution. It is a very, very serious matter. And as citizens, we have to reject that and reject it out of hand, because on August the 14th, in addition to voting for local government reform and all of the things that reform will do to enhance, our way of life at the local government level, we also have to reject that moral outrage that has been visited upon us by the entry of Jack Warner into the political sphere in Trinidad and Tobago, aided and abetted by the leader of the opposition and a former person who held the office of Commissioner of Police. When he's supposed to be talking to the police to take Jack's hand and take him down to Piaco International Airport so that he can go and answer for his crime. He is now on a political platform trying to convince the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to vote for that accommodation so that they can occupy national office in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. That is a very serious matter that all of us, our citizens, should be concerned about.
And unfortunately, you have some 309,000 persons who would have cast their ballot for the opposition, who certainly will not see things as you would have just outlined it.
Yes, they will have their supporters. And I also believe that out of the 309,000 citizens who would have voted for the UNC in 2020, I am of the honest belief that quite a number of these 309,000 people have their own reservations about this.
As has been evidenced by commentary on social media.
They have their reservations. I don't want to reveal, and I cannot reveal certain things. But senior people within the United National Congress reached out to me last night during that political meeting and apologized to me for the conduct of Jack Warner. And they told me to restrain, do not be distracted, do not be pulled by his gutter behavior because they know me and they know I treat all of them with respect.
Right.
In the parliament, even though we may have robust debate where we'll be critical of each other, policies and what have you, I never disrespect, and I will never disrespect any of my colleagues opposite. And they know me very well for that. And they know that I am quite capable of criticizing them at the appropriate time.
Right.
But Jack's behavior last night forced quite a number of them to reach out to me.
Yes.
So therefore, I can say that the 309,000 people would have voted for the UNC. I know quite a number of them are quite unhappy. They are very unhappy with his re-entry into the politics and also the UNC. And I am also hearing that he is already negotiating for certain positions.
Yes.
As we lead up towards the next general elections. It is going to be very interesting.
Yes.
I don't believe that this script is going to be fully written on August the 14th. I think it is August the 14th, I just reached the first chapter. But it is going to go beyond August the 14th. And you're going to see a lot more chapters being rolled out.
Yeah.
I understand the UNC has their internal elections in September. Look out. It is going to be interesting time.
Yes, and Mrs. Pasadi says is certainly hoping August 14th will give her a much needed lifeline.
And that is, I mean, it's desperation. If she was winning, she would not have, gone to the extreme to impose that moral outrage on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. She would not have gone to link up with her former commissioner of police, who had the worst things to say about her, who would have appeared before a joint select committee and said that people on the opposition serving on a joint select committee on national security were colluding with criminals and sharing information with criminals. He is now in the same party with them. So for her to go to the extent now to embrace these people, it shows to me the level of desperation that exists in the UNC. And as we inch closer to the August 14th local government elections and what it can mean for a sure defeat for the UNC. So their behavior and the immoral and evil accommodation that we are seeing, it is because they perhaps face a collective threat that they believe that they have to band together regardless of what would have transpired between them or among them over the years in order to escape the inevitable. And that is what is happening.
Minister, I know you didn't plan to spend 2 hours.
Certainly, did I spend? I can't believe this.
Thank you so much. It happens, you see.
The conversation was a good conversation.
Indeed,
so
indeed.
I really did not expect to spend 2 hours, but I must thank you, Dominic, for the opportunity for going into great details with some of the policy positions that I am pursuing and rolling out in the Ministry of Public Utilities. I've never had the opportunity to go deep into the water transformation, the water sector transformation, the transformation that is taking place in TNTech. I mean, and I could come back here and even discuss further the transformation that is about to take place with solid waste management as well. A lot of things happening there. The implementation of the recycling policy and legislation, beverage container, all of these things. And even as we grapple with the effects of climate change, you will be happy to know that the meteorological services division under the Ministry of Public Utilities in itself is undergoing major transformation as we seek to reposition the Met Office to be able to provide the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago leverage on technology to provide all of us with timely data so that we can know of impending weather conditions, so that we can take appropriate action to protect ourselves and to protect our properties and what have you. So a lot is happening in the sphere of the Meteorological Services Division. And on the next occasion, I'm going to come and delve further into these things.
Excellent. So folks, we're out of time, but as always, not out of things to say. And again, I want to thank the Minister for taking time to come and speak with us this evening. And he's definitely going to be back very soon because there's a lot more information that we need to get going forward. So enjoy the rest of your evening. And tomorrow night, we have another exciting program. We have one of his colleagues. I won't say who it is yet, right? Just in case. There's a meeting tomorrow in Arima.
That's right.
Yes. So PNM meeting in Arima. So all roads lead to Arima tomorrow evening. Yeah.
The women's platform.
Yes, the women's platform, right? But we'll also have some action taking place here too. So we'll see you back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Enjoy the rest of the evening. We're out.